As Israel continues its raids into Gaza, fears grow over a full-scale incursion. The international community continues to call for a delay, saying it would be a humanitarian disaster. Top diplomats of the U.S. and China meet in Washington to set up a summit between Presidents Joe Biden and Xi Jinping next month in San Francisco. Looking back on the tragic crowd crush that happened 1 year ago in Seoul's Itaewon neighborhood, we take a deeper look at where this country stands in terms of safety and how victims are being remembered. It's October 27, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon. We continue our coverage of the war in the Middle East. As Israel intensifies its raids into Gaza, fears are growing over an imminent full-scale incursion. The international community continues to call for delays, saying this would be a humanitarian disaster. Yoon talked to an expert about what's next to come.
Israel conducted a targeted raid into northern Gaza overnight using tanks. According to AFP, the Israel Defense Force said this was part of preparations for the next stage of combat before leaving the area. Israel's ground operation seems to have come a step closer, following Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statement on Wednesday that the country was getting ready for a ground invasion. However, he did not provide any further information regarding the operation. Then what is causing the delay? One expert, Baek Seung-un, told Arirang TV that as Israel's goal is to eliminate Hamas, the real question is what comes next.
There are three options. One is that Israel Defense Force will stay there as long as they're possible, that they could build up the peace and stabilize the area. And the second option is they could build an interim government within the Gaza Strip who could substitute the Hamas. Israel and the United States might bring Hamas governments, a government from West Bank.
Baek theorizes that the ongoing internal discussion is what is keeping Israel from striking Gaza in the long-awaited ground operation.
If that is not possible, they could use Al-Fatah, which before Hamas came to power, but it has not yet decided yet who will going to be the post-Hamas governance when they are out in Gaza Strip.
Baek said that as Israel cannot trust Al-Fatah, nor has it decided on who should be the new government in Gaza, the best option is for it to proceed with the war and occupy Gaza until it removes Hamas's ability to rule there. However, according to the professor, the United States is against Israel's occupation of Gaza, as that could provoke another conflict, and that the longer it stays, the greater the collateral damage that will happen, giving an excuse for Hezbollah or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps to attack Israel. Israel has been carrying out intense bombardment of Gaza following the October 7th Hamas attack across its southern border, and so the ground operation will seemingly happen shortly. According to Gaza's health ministry, the death toll in Gaza has risen to more than 7,000. Yoon, Arirang News.
In the meantime, the Israeli military says Hamas used weapons made by North Korea and Iran during its October 7th attack. Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
The Israeli military says North Korean and Iranian weapons, which included mines, rocket-propelled grenades, and drones, were used by Hamas during its attack on Israel on October 7th. An Iranian mortar launcher and a North Korean-made grenade launcher were part of the haul of weapons recovered, with an official saying a total of 20% of all weapons used by Hamas during the attacks were from North Korea and Iran. Iran's foreign minister told the United Nations on Thursday that Tehran is ready to play a role in mediating talks to release Israeli hostages from Hamas, along with Qatar and Turkey. However, he said in order for such negotiations to take place, Israel must be prepared to release 6,000 Palestinians held in its prisons. Meanwhile, according to Russian media outlet TASS, a delegation from Hamas visited Moscow on Thursday for talks on the release of hostages, including Russian citizens that the militant group is currently holding in Gaza. The Kremlin said Iran's deputy foreign minister is in Moscow to hold talks with Russian officials to discuss the ongoing conflict and find ways to stabilize the situation. Israel slammed the visit by the Hamas delegation, saying that Russia should expel them from their country, while criticizing Russia for inviting them. 이승재, Arirang News.
President Joe Biden ordered 2 U.S. fighter jets to hit Syrian weapons and ammunition facilities used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the militias it backs. Reuters reported that 2 F-16s struck those facilities in eastern Syria on Friday, local time, in retaliation for last week's attacks on U.S. forces by Iranian-backed militia. Around 20 service members were injured in drone and missile attacks that began last week against American military bases in Iraq and Syria. In Washington, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with China's top diplomat Wang, laying the groundwork for a possible summit between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping next month. Putting aside differences, the two sides agreed to explore areas of cooperation. Choi Min-jung reports.
Top diplomats of the United States and China kicked off a long-anticipated discussion in Washington on Thursday. Speaking briefly before sitting down for talks, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken welcomed his Chinese counterpart, Wang.
I very much look forward to constructive conversations over the next 2 days.
Wang said Washington and Beijing have disagreements, but at the same time share important common interests and challenges that they need to resolve together, comments that Blinken said he agreed with.
Not only should it be resumed, the dialogue should be in-depth and comprehensive so that with dialogue we can increase understanding, reduce misunderstanding and misjudgments.
In a statement following the meeting, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said Blinken and Wang discussed a range of bilateral, regional, and global issues, including addressing areas of difference as well as exploring areas of cooperation. China's foreign ministry said the two sides had an in-depth exchange of opinions on Beijing-Washington relations and issues of common interests in a constructive atmosphere. The two are set to continue their discussions on Friday. Also on Friday, Wang is set to meet with National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and highly likely with President Biden as well. The current trip is primarily aimed at preparing a possible summit between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping in November on the sidelines of an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders meeting. And amid ongoing conflict, it's anticipated that the U.S. will use Wang's trip to urge China to play a constructive role in wars between Israel and Hamas, as well as Russia and Ukraine. The State Department previously hinted that North Korea issues would also be on the agenda of the meetings. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Former Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has reportedly passed away. According to China's state broadcaster CCTV on this Friday, the 68-year-old died of a heart attack in Shanghai. Li served as premier from the year 2013 to 2023 and was the second most powerful official in the ruling Chinese Communist Party until he was replaced by Li Keqiang earlier this March. South Korea's tech giant LG Electronics posted an earnings surprise for the third quarter of this year. Its operating profits in the July to September period reached around 1 trillion won or $739 million. That is a 33.5% rise year on year. The company attributed this to robust sales of its core home appliance businesses, where profits more than doubled compared to last year. The performance was also on the back of LG's recent shift in enterprise portfolio, including an expansion in the B2B sector, especially in vehicle components. LG's car components business hit a quarterly record high operating profit of over 134 billion won in the third quarter. In the U.S., third quarter findings show the American economy expanded close to 5%, bolstered by consumer spending. Shin Se-byuk has the fresh figures.
The U.S. economy grew 4.9% in the third quarter. The figure released by the Commerce Department on Thursday marked the highest increase in nearly 2 years since the 7% growth recorded in the fourth quarter of 2021. Notably, this surpassed both the previous quarter's 2.1% and economists' expectations of 4.3%, despite the country's interest rates reaching their highest level in 22 years. Consumer spending played a key role. It was up 4%, the fastest pace since the last quarter of 2021, demonstrating the country's resilience in the face of challenges such as high inflation and soaring interest rates. Other indicators, inventories, investment, and government spending also posted strong growth. In a TV interview on Thursday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen acknowledged that while the growth rate is likely to slow, she labeled it as a good, strong number. Yellen also expressed confidence in the U.S. economy's ability to achieve a soft landing. Meanwhile, as for the significant increase in long-term bond yields, Yellen attributed this to confidence in the U.S. economy, which has led to expectations of higher interest rates for a longer period. The interest rate on the 10-year U.S. Treasury bond hit 5% early this week, the highest since 2007. This came as the U.S. last week reported a $1.7 trillion federal budget deficit for the fiscal year 2023. The 10-year Treasury yield, a barometer of investor confidence, is widely considered one of the safest investments as it carries the full backing of the U.S. government. There have been suggestions that higher bond yields came as a result of worries about rising U.S. deficits and an economic recession. Despite concerns, Yellen dismissed suggestions of rising U.S. deficits and a potential economic recession and emphasized the possibility of longer-term yields decreasing. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Back in this country, with the voting now less than a month away, President Yoon has called for the unilateral support for all local governments when it comes to Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. This came as he presided over the 5th meeting on cooperation between central and local governments on Friday at the city of Andong, Gyeongsang-Buk-do Province. President Yoon emphasized the importance of balanced regional growth for the nation's economy going forward. The meeting also saw 5 major agenda items discussed, including strengthening local government autonomy and legislative powers, as well as incentivizing local investments. Also discussed were efforts to combat Korea's shrinking population and strategies to retain young people and businesses in local areas. K-pop artists BTS Jimin and girl group NewJeans have each been nominated in 4 categories at the 2023 Billboard Music Awards. According to the BBMAs on Thursday, Jimin is nominated in the top-selling song and top global K-pop song categories for his solo track Like Crazy. He has also been nominated for the top global K-pop artist and top K-pop album for his first solo release, Face. NewJeans was nominated for Top Billboard Global Artist excluding the US and will compete against Jimin for Top Global K-pop Artist, Top Global K-pop Song with their tracks Ditto and OMG. This year's BBMAs will be broadcast live on the Billboard social media channel on November 19th. Another story. We are in the middle of the vibrant autumn foliage season. This year, it's expected to be even more colorful than usual. Our Choi So-hyung went to check out some fascinating scenery here in Korea.
The mountains turning yellow and red means that autumn is here. In South Korea, pink foliage occurs when over 80% of the mountain's trees change color. It usually starts on Seoraksan Mountain in Gangwon-do Province, east of the capital Seoul and the country's coldest region. From late October this year, famous fall foliage attractions across the country are set to welcome visitors.
The mountains near Seoul have already reached their peak autumn leaves, and mountains further south like Gaeryongsan and Naejangsan are expected to have their peak fall foliage by early November.
One nearby location from Seoul is Yongmunsan Mountain in Yangpyeong-gun County, Gyeonggi-do Province, which boasts diverse tree species that determine the colors, making it a great choice for an autumn picnic. In particular, the maple trees along the track to Yongmun Temple. Its fall foliage started 9 days ago and has now reached its peak, displaying a variety of colors and beautiful landscapes.
It was my first time going on an autumn foliage trip this year, and the timing was just perfect. The autumn leaves had beautiful and vibrant colors, and when I climbed up the hill, seeing this, it made me feel peaceful and relaxed to relieve lots of the stress.
According to the Korea Forest Service, the leaf-changing season has been getting about 0.33 days later each year since 2009, likely due to rising temperatures from July to September. This year's peak fall foliage arrived 4 to 5 days later than usual, and these colorful leaves will stay for around a week to 10 days. People can still enjoy other parts of South Korea if they miss the northern and central mountain attractions. Those who want to explore autumn colors should pack their bags and have their calendars handy to start planning. The Forest Service said this year's fall foliage may be later, but due to temperature variations, it's expected to be more vibrant. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
This coming Sunday marks 1 year since the Itaewon crowd crush. On that day, Halloween festivities turned into one of South Korea's deadliest disasters. For more, we have our reporters Hong Yoo-jin in the studio. Thanks for joining us, Yoo-jin.
Thank you for having me.
A year has passed already.
You're right, Jong-min. So I think the memories of that tragic night on October 29th, 2022 still weigh heavily on a lot of people, including myself. So as a person who covered the accident last year, when I think about the accident, the memories are still vivid. And I think this applies to a lot of people because we saw the loss of so many lives, mostly those in their 20s and 30s, which shocked not only Korea, but the whole world. So today, I want to look back on what has changed, how we're coping with the tragedy, and what still needs to be done. October 29th, 2022. Itaewon, a popular nightlife spot in Seoul, witnessed an unimaginable tragedy. A crowd crush resulted in the loss of 159 lives. 1 year later, we reflect on the question of what's changed. The absence of adequate crowd control measures has been pinpointed as a major factor. This year, director-level personnel from the Interior Ministry, alongside firefighters and police officers, are being deployed to areas expected to see overcrowding both before and after Halloween. Seoul city government is installing around 8,000 AI-enabled closed-circuit TV cameras. These cameras can detect and alert authorities to dangerous crowding. But there are still challenges.
There's now an emphasis on local governments to manage events that do not have organizers like the Itaewon Halloween festivities. But it's unclear whether every region has enough personnel and resources to do that.
The impact of tragedy has been psychological, too. Over 7,000 individuals have sought counseling, mostly the general public, after being exposed to unfiltered graphic images and videos of the accident online.
Trauma can resurface any time in the future. If you need help, you can access free treatment programs at national and regional trauma centers anytime. Local mental health and welfare centers also offer various counseling and programs related to mental health.
Back in Itaewon, instead of the customary Halloween festivities, the streets are calm, with some streets posting signs paying tribute to the victims. So this is the exact spot where the deadly crowd crush happened last year, and now, as you can see, it's now a place where people will be able to forever remember those who lost their lives on the night of October 29th, 2022. Messages of condolences fill the walls. People continue to stream in to pay their respects. They hope something like this will never happen again.
And whenever I walk down here, I always pause and stop and I pray.
Avoiding large gatherings is just not realistic, so I think it's absolutely crucial to have public servants, firefighters, and police personnel involved in crowd control.
Since the accident, I've experienced some trauma when it comes to large crowd gatherings. Nonetheless, I believe that people heal through one another. My wish is for these interactions to take place in areas that are comfortable and safe.
October 29th, 2022 will remain etched in the memory. Those who were lost will be remembered, by those endeavoring for a safer future.
Changes are being made, but still a long way to go and far from done. Eugene, what's the Itaewon like these days?
Well, Tommy, the area suffered a lot initially, but it began to recover. In fact, data from the Seoul city government shows that sales and the number of customers in stores of the Itaewon area are around 70% when compared to before the accident happened. So when I went there yesterday for my coverage, I could see that there were some customers, but most of the stores were vacant. And shop workers tell me that's probably because the one-year anniversary is looming. So the director of the National Center for Disaster and Trauma that you've seen in my report says symptoms of trauma can reappear as people start remembering the accident.
And Halloween is just around the corner. Anything we should keep in mind?
Well, this year, the government expects a large crowd in the Hongdae University area, which is another very popular nightlife district in Seoul. I also visited there yesterday, and I could already see teams of police officers and as well as patrol cars to really work for crowd control. And one officer informed me that the police presence will be extensive starting today. And so for those who are planning to go out during the weekend, which is expected to be the peak period for crowds, be cautious in densely populated areas. And if you're thinking of dressing up for Halloween, avoid costumes resembling police officers or firefighters, as they could disrupt emergency rescue efforts.
All right, all those victims remembered and no more tragedies. Thanks, Eugene.
Thank you.
Conditions will be moderate for outdoor activities this weekend. Pleasant breezes and sunny skies will take over. Temperatures will be in the similar range in Seoul for both Saturday and Sunday, with lows of 9 degrees and highs of 20 degrees. But daily temperatures will fluctuate, so make sure to dress in layers. Overnight temperatures will plunge for many inland regions, and this may cause frost or even ice. Please look out for the potential damage to agricultural crops. And for the coastlines, gusty winds of 15 meters per second are expected from time to time. This will lead to high waves as well. So for those near the shorelines, please stay away from breakwaters or piers. Mostly clear skies are expected for the morning hours. Tomorrow, Seoul will start off at 9 degrees, Jeju at 14 degrees. Highs will be jumping significantly, causing big contrast in daily temperatures. Seoul will get up to 20 degrees, Chuncheon 18, Daegu and Busan will be reaching 21 degrees. Clear skies are in the forecast for the next few days. On Wednesday, central regions, including Seoul, will see showers. That's all for now, and to the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.